Violence breaks out at Donald Trump rallies. We're going to take a look at it. And Germany is in a meltdown politically over immigration, legal immigration. I'm Randall Terry. This is Voice of Resistance.
Those who forsake the law praise the wicked. Those who uphold the law resist them. Welcome to the Voice of Resistance. Here's your host, Randall Terry.
In a moment, we're going to take a look at what is happening in Germany right now. And I admit, I follow German politics about this much. But this is really critical because it deals with Muslim immigrants and the backlash that is happening in Germany right now. We've got a lot to learn there. But before we go to Germany, let's go to Chicago and to Dayton, Ohio. In case you missed it, one of Donald Trump's rallies in Chicago was canceled. All right, the Chicago event was completely canceled. Over 10,000 people who intended to disrupt the meeting had RSVP'd. In other words, to go to a Trump event, you actually have to sign up online, request a ticket, and then they send you a ticket to your email address, and that allows you to get in. Over 10,000 people. 10,000. It was completely organized. MoveOn.org, super far left-wing group, funded in part by George Soros. They went, and they were successful in shutting down the meeting. And in case you missed it, you're seeing some of the little tussles that were televised over the weekend. Then in Dayton, Ohio, the very next day, a man rushed the stage where Donald Trump was speaking and said he was going to grab the microphone and say Donald Trump was a racist. He's in custody, or he's probably gotten out by now, but he was charged with, I think, disorderly conduct and inciting a panic or something. So here's the question. Who is to blame? Who is to blame? Because there have been little snippets of violence. There was that 78-year-old man that sucker punched that young black man at one of the rallies. There's been pushing and shoving going on at Trump's rallies. Who's to blame? Well, Rubio, Cruz, Kasich, they couldn't resist. They all weighed in. Let's see what Marco Rubio has to say.
There's only one presidential candidate who has violence at their events.
Short and sweet. Blame Trump. Let's hear from Ted Cruz, because he's far more eloquent in his condemnation of Trump.
And when you have a campaign that disrespects the voters, when you have a campaign that affirmatively encourages violence, when you have a campaign that is facing allegations of physical violence against members of the press, you create an environment that only encourages this sort of nasty discourse.
So there you go. It's a little bit of the bait and switch. You can see how he escalates all the way up to the media and the report of that lady. Something did happen where her hands were grabbed by one of Trump's staff. And now let's hear from John Kasich.
Donald Trump has created a toxic environment. And a toxic environment has allowed his supporters and those who sometimes seek confrontation to come together in violence. There is no place for this. There is no place for a national leader to prey on the fears of people who live in our great country. I'm pleased to see that the other candidates in the last debate began to realize that name-calling, that lowering the bar on American politics is not acceptable. And frankly, the coverage of this campaign has been disappointing, because it seems as though the attention goes to those who call names.
All right, John Kasich weighing in, preying on the fears of people. Let me make an illustration, okay? If you've got a bully, let's say that there's a bully, a thug in a bar, all right? Just a random story here. He's in the bar and you say to the bully, to the thug, you're a bully. You're the problem here. And then he comes unglued and he punches you or he punches your friends. Are you to blame? If he is in fact a bully, let's say that he's a criminal. Let's say that he's a drug dealer. And you say, you're a drug dealer and what you're doing, you should be ashamed of yourself. And then in a response, he takes out one of those metal sticks and whacks you in the leg or whacks your friend in the leg with it, kneecaps someone. Who's to blame? Well, there are people who say that, well, the person who opened their mouth was to blame. They should just accept the status quo. You understand that there were people who blamed Churchill? Before World War II broke out in earnest, there were people who blamed some of Hitler's behaviors on Churchill and others who were opposing Hitler. I'm not kidding. Talk about dysfunctional behavior. Talk about dysfunctional placement of blame. Donald Trump is in part responsible. He is. Just like the person going into the bar and saying, you're a drug dealer, is in part responsible. Just like a doctor who lances a boil is in part responsible that all of the pus came out. He didn't create the pus. He didn't create the infection. But when he lanced it, when he identified it and then lanced it, he is in part responsible for it coming out. But he didn't create the problem. And that's the issue. The atmosphere that we see politically right now did not get created by Donald Trump. To suggest it is ludicrous. So what Rubio and Cruz and Kasich are doing is using this for a moment of political gotcha, point getting. If someone was going to put blame on it, you would have to go back a year, 3 years, 5 years, 50 years, depending on what the issue is. But the simple fact of the matter is the last 7 years of the Obama administration have been some of the most divisive years in American politics, perhaps the most divisive years, certainly in my lifetime, certainly in the last 50 years. We are a divided nation. President Obama has helped fan the flames of racism. And so when you see the Black Lives Matter activists coming into Chicago and disrupting it, Donald Trump didn't create that. Donald Trump has come on the scene and said, there's illegal immigrants pouring over the border. So if an illegal immigrant commits a rape or a murder, is Donald Trump to blame for that? Donald Trump says, we need a temporary ban on Muslims because we don't know what's going on. And then a Muslim commits a heinous act of terrorism. Is Donald Trump to blame for that, for pointing it out? Do you see how ludicrous this is? Yes, Donald Trump has said things that were way too edgy for a lot of people, including me, like, talking about people being punched or... I don't agree with it. But listen to me. There is a level of frustration and there is in the electorate, and there's a level of honesty coming out of Donald Trump's mouth that is like a lance. It's like a lance. He's saying things. In fact, his first wife, Ivana, wrote to him and said, your slogan should be, he's saying what you're thinking. And that's part of the Donald Trump mystique. He's saying things that people agree with. He didn't create these tensions. He's exposing them. He didn't create the drug dealer in the bar. He's going in the bar and saying, you're a drug dealer. And that is why there is all this tension. It's not because he created it, it's because he's exposing it and he's not playing by the rules anymore. I'll be right back. We'll see what's happening over in Germany. We've got a lot to talk about. Oh, by the way, Marco Rubio won something big. Wait till you see who he won it from. Friend, we are in the middle of producing a 14-part epic television series called What Would Mohammed Do? explaining Islam and ISIS to the West. I have a master's degree in international terrorism, and I have studied ancient Islamic texts for over a decade. And we are going to do a very paced and a very scholarly look at Muhammad's life and see the connection of his life to today's headlines. Well, we need your help on 3 levels. 1, we need help with some security measures. 2, we need help with some gear for the studio. And 3, we need help with some computers. I'm inviting you to go to the GoFundMe site that you see on the screen and watch the pilot for episode 1. You'll get a feel for what it's going to be, and I promise you, you're going to be excited. You'll be challenged, and you're going to want your friends to see it. And then after you've seen it, give what you can to help us with this project. Thank you. So much to talk about. Coming up, we're going to look at Germany, and we're going to look at Kasich. Breitbart did a great service to the country and pulled together 8 or 10 quotes of Kasich. And there's a video that Drudge put up again where Kasich gives his agenda for illegal immigrants. It's going to stop you in your tracks, people. But before we go to that, let's talk about Marco Rubio's big win. Marco Rubio has won Minnesota. He has won Puerto Rico. And now he squeaked out a victory in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. does get to vote in the presidential election. They have 3 electoral votes. And in the Republican caucus that happened over the weekend in Washington, D.C., he squeaked out a victory over Kasich. Rubio got 10 delegates. Kasich got 9 delegates. And Trump and Cruz knocked the rim off of those zeros. Both of them got 0 delegates. And all I can say is, number 1, I love this. I love it. Why would I love it? Who do you think voted for Rubio? He's proving Trump and Cruz's point. D.C. is populated by wealthy Republican insiders, lobbyists, people who are writing checks, fat cats, people who want the status quo, people who want the establishment to stay in power, people who are part of the so-called conservative movement. They voted for Rubio. What does that tell you? It tells you that they don't want change. It tells you that they want the establishment to stay in power. And so for the last few weeks, all eyes have been on Marco Rubio, like he's the new Republican establishment campaign. He's the new Republican establishment candidate. He's collapsing in Florida. Tomorrow night, it's very likely that he's going to be defeated by Donald Trump by double digits, maybe 20 points or more. You know, there's a reason why people are protesting at Donald Trump's rallies and no one's protesting it at Marco Rubio's rallies. No one's protesting there. The reason is because so few people are going to Marco Rubio's rallies. Did you see the picture? He rented a football stadium, and everyone could fit in the goal line and maybe up to the 10 or 20 yard line. It was horrible. His campaign is collapsing in Florida, and we'll see if he decides he's going to stick it out. So anyway, Kasich got 9 delegates, Rubio got 10. We have created a tool for you to use. If you go to our website, it's absolutely free. You don't have to sign up for anything. You can download it. It's a simple PDF. It's a piece of paper that has every state, every date that the primary is going to happen for the Republicans, how many delegates are at stake, whether it's a winner-take-all state or a proportional state, and what role the congressional districts play in the outcome. It's all there for you for free. We've done all the research. I've made my predictions. And by the way, my first predictions for March 12th and this past Saturday, March 8th and March 12th, were almost spot on. I'm predicting that Donald Trump is going to win the nomination. And I'm showing how he can win, even if he loses Ohio, which I think he will lose. Even if Trump loses Ohio, I think that he can win the nomination. And I show you how. And even if he loses Pennsylvania and Delaware, it's all there. It's my prediction. I'm going to eat humble pie if I'm wrong. And you Cruz supporters, if you want Cruz in the remaining states that are left, if you want him to win, it's time now to get off your hind end and fight like crazy for him to win. But I've made my prediction knowing the electoral map, knowing the mood of various states and what they're made up of in the Republican electorate. And I've made my prediction. I'm going to let it stand all the way through the end of the primary, and we'll see if I have to eat humble pie or how correct I was. All of that aside, take advantage of the tool. It's there for you to use for free so you can make your own predictions. And I'm going to talk about Germany when I come back, and Kasich, who is now rising as the fair-haired Republican establishment candidate, so much so that Mr. Perfectly Tanned and Perfectly Groomed is going to go and campaign for him. Who is that mystery figure? Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas referred to John Locke twice in his dissent in the Obergefell decision. John Locke is referred to as the philosopher of American liberty. He was a genius, and he not only believed in natural law, but he believed in revealed law, the Word of God, the law of God. And he is one of the two most influential philosophers on the founders of this republic. We are offering you this book, and I'm going to give you my book as well, The Sword. The Sword, the subtitle is The Blessing of Righteous Government and the Overthrow of Tyrants. It looks at what is the legitimate purpose of government and when is it our right to overthrow government like they did with the Declaration of Independence. We will send you these two books if you simply pay for the shipping and handling, $8, and then give whatever else you want. And by the way, the $8 doesn't cover our cost, but if that's all you can afford, we'll send them to you for the $8. God bless you. The state of Ohio is a manufacturing state. And there was a time when it was probably the #1 tire manufacturer in the world, okay? And there's still literally tens of thousands of tires being made in Ohio. But a lot of the manufacturing, as in so many states, a lot of the jobs have gone south of the border or to the Pacific Rim. John Kasich is betting the farm that he is going to win Ohio. Who is that mystery man coming to campaign for him? You knew it. It's Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney. Mitt and his friends who want the establishment to maintain power and who want amnesty. You have to understand that the Republican establishment wants amnesty because they want the cheap labor and they don't want to have to worry about breaking the law. So here is what Kasich said in an interview over a month ago. And because no one was paying attention to Kasich because he was doing so bad, well, no one was paying attention to him. But listen to what he said on Fox.
Let's get the border fixed. Number 5, let's start working on Social Security,
but
all within 100 days.
Let's go back to number 4, because you didn't say let's just get the border fixed. You said, and you're quite right, comprehensive immigration reform, including a path to legalization.
Yeah, right. For those that, look, here's the deal. Finish the wall, have a guest worker program where people can come in, work, and go home. And then for the 11.5 million who are here who have not committed a crime since they've been here, then a path to legalization.
But what about the argument, and you hear this from a lot of Republicans, that you have to fix the border?
Yeah, you have to.
Before you even begin to discuss legalization.
No, you'd get it all done. Just get the border done and do the whole thing. And look, Chris,
do it at the same time.
And I'm not. If somebody says we got to sequence it, I don't have a problem with that. If they say, okay, first get the border, then in 6 months we do this. That's just a little detail, but we need to get it done. And look, I've done 100 town hall meetings here. I've met with more people in New Hampshire face-to-face than anybody running for president. I've done this all over the country. The country's ready for solutions.
There you have it, people. A pathway to legalization. That's code word for amnesty. Breitbart put together over 10 different quotes where Kasich said, we're not deporting these people, They're made in God's image, which is true. And they're good people, which also may be true, but we're not deporting them, and we've got to have a pathway to legalization. So if Trump wants to beat Kasich in Ohio, the way to do it is just to start playing Kasich's words over and over again, because the people of Ohio, they value manufacturing in Ohio, and they don't want illegal immigrants coming in and taking the jobs, no matter what Romney says and no matter what Kasich says. I'll be right back. Quick word on Germany. Friend, this TV show represents a mission. It's to be a voice of resistance to the evil in the land, but also to inspire people like you to take a stand at any level that you might be able to equip you, to inspire you, to challenge you, to give you the rhetorical ammunition that you need. But we still have to pay bills. This program, as you know if you're a regular viewer, we don't spend a lot of time raising money. We don't spend a lot of time saying, oh, you need to buy this and we're going to run it. No, we're bringing you a message, but we still have bills that we need to pay. I'm asking you, if you have been blessed by this show, to please go to our website or send a check to the address you see on the screen or call the phone number that you see on the screen and use your credit card, and to give $50 or $100 or $500 just to help us meet our normal expenses. And we'll keep bringing you this hard-hitting show. Christians must be involved in government, period. If Christians weren't involved in government, we would not have a United States of America. And there have been brilliant Christian minds over the centuries, such as John Locke, who is called the philosopher of American liberty. He was quoted by Clarence Thomas in his recent dissent on the homosexual marriage decision. If we don't understand John Locke, we don't understand the founding of America. I want to send you this book and my book, The Sword, subtitled The Blessing of Righteous Government and The Overthrow of Tyrants. I want to send you these two books for a gift of whatever you can afford. Pay the $8 shipping and handling, which does not cover our costs, and then give a gift of whatever size you want, and we'll send you these books. If you cannot afford anything but the $8, can't even afford that, write us a note, and we'll send them to you for free. I want you to have these books so that you can be better equipped to fight in the political arena. Come on, order them today. Angela Merkel, the leader of Germany, she hails from one of the eastern states. Over the weekend, there were some state elections in Germany, and they have a very different system of government than we do, okay? And I'm still learning it, I confess. But part of the way they do business is you vote for a party, and if they meet the 5% threshold of that party, then you get a certain percentage of the sitting members of that state government. Does that make sense? So if you get 10% of the vote, then you would get 10% of the delegates that serve for that government, whether it's local or state or whatever. There's a new party in Germany, 3 years old, called Alternative for Germany. There were 3 states that held elections over the weekend in Germany. The Alternative for Germany, brand new. They won 10% in one state, more than 10% in one state, more than 10% in another, and more than 20% in a third. This has Angela Merkel's party in a meltdown because Alternative for Germany is just saying, stop the flood of immigrants. Stop. Listen to this quote from one of the English newspapers. An increasing number of public canteens, child daycare centers, and schools have stopped serving sausages, bacon, and ham over religious considerations. Now, a member of Chancellor Angela Merkel's CDU party are fighting to keep pork on the menu, insisting the consumption of pork is part of German culture. I'll have to deal with this tomorrow. But think this through with me. The Merkel's people are saying, look, we have to teach German women how to dress so that they don't get raped by Muslim immigrants. We have to take pork off the menu so as to not offend the Muslims. Along comes the Alternative for Germany party saying, stop, let's keep German culture and keep this flood of Muslim immigrants out. I've got to talk about this more tomorrow. I'll be back. Hope you join me.